Guys, unfortunately, a lot of people spend more time making excuses as to why they can't prep than trying to find solutions as to why they can. Excuses are easy, and action is easy. Actual getting out and doing things requires more effort, and most people, or a lot of people anyway, or some people anyway, don't want to put in that effort. So what do? They make excuses. They will watch prepping videos, but they will make excuses in the comments as to why they can't do this. And one of the main things I see people making excuses about is if I prepare, if I put back, say, food storage, then someone can come along and just take that. So why bother? And, on the surface, it sounds like, that sounds reasonable. But in reality, it really isn't, because, if you don't put back food storage, for example, then you're guaranteed to have nothing. Granted, if you do, someone might come along and take that, steal that. However, you have a chance, you have an opportunity to actually have this backup you can use when you need that. And if you don't, then you're guaranteed to have nothing. The same thing with, raising a garden. They say, why plant a garden? Because, my neighbors will just watch. When it gets time to harvest, they'll come in and just take it and steal it. Or the local authorities will come in and take, your chickens, for example. Take your eggs, take your garden produce. So why bother? Why even do it at all? And with that mindset, again, you're guaranteed to have nothing. If you don't plant that garden because you're afraid someone will come along and take it, then you're guaranteed to not have any harvest. It's just that simple. But fortunately, there's ways that you can plant a garden. And what this video is mainly about is a secret garden. There's ways to do this that will definitely be more secure and will lower the possibility that anyone will come along and take what you have. Because if they don't know that you have the garden, they're not going to come along and take it. So you want to do it secretly if that's something you're worried about. Ideally, your neighbors will help you grow your garden. You can help them grow theirs and work together for community benefit and community survival and security. However, that isn't the case, all the time. So if you're worried about your neighbors stealing your produce from your garden or stealing your chickens and things like that, there's ways to do it. For example, see this building here. This is a 3-sided building actually. This front part is open here. But let's say it's a closed-in building and you have, all 4 sides and you have a secure door, secure entryway. You could take this and you could take those walls and you could put a nice fresh coat of white, reflective white paint on those walls, or line those with aluminum foil, for example, to reflect sunlight. You could remove, the ceiling here in a day's time and replace this in another day's time. You could probably do it in one day if a couple of people could. Take this off and replace this with fiberglass roofing, the kind they use in commercial greenhouses and in home greenhouses, and you effectively have, a secret greenhouse. Cheap, easy to do, put some shelving in, and grow, a good size garden pretty much year round if you can keep that heated. Of course, it would depend on, where you are and things, but you can definitely extend, your growing season. So you have a secret greenhouse, and your neighbors can pass by and look, and all they'll see is just a building. You have, an old outbuilding, storage building. It doesn't have to be, this big. It can be half this size. You can do quite a bit in that. Look at that and say, can I make this into, a secure greenhouse, secure growing area? Pot farmers do this all the time. They take an old building, they will take the roof off, they will paint the insides to make it more reflective of the light. They will build shelving where they can raise the plants up near the roof to get more sunlight, and as they grow they will lower those plants down. Very easy to do, and you can have water inside that. Actually, if you have a well on your property, you could build a building, around your well, and you could get water out of your well without having to go out and get that and bring that back in to water the plants. So you could do that without even leaving the building, and your neighbors, more than wise, they'd be looking, and you'd be going in the building, they would think you were just had storage in there or something like that, and not, a thriving garden. So it'd be much more secure to do that than have it planted outside. You can also do things like planting a food forest. You can plant different plants that aren't so noticeable, so recognizable by most people. Most everyone knows what a tomato looks like. The plant, not necessarily, but when it starts blooming, starts having the harvest come off, they will see those tomatoes and say, yummy. So they know what that it is. So you might want to look into plants that aren't as recognizable to the general public and plant those. Food forest, you might want to take and put a garden away from your property. And if you have a lot of property, you could put that away from your home, where most people don't go, hopefully, to find that. Pot farmers, again, do it all the time. So it can be done. You can get the harvest off without everyone knowing about that. And if it's something you're worried about, is your neighbors stealing what you have, your garden produce, stealing your chickens and things like that, there's some good books about how to set up, a secret garden. I have all three of these here, and I recommend, if you want to do this, and I think it's a great idea to do this, especially if you don't trust your neighbors at all, you're not working together for your own mutual survival. These books are written by Rick Austin, and he was on Doomsday Preppers, I think, if I remember correctly. The Doomsday Preppers show from National Geographic, I think that it was. The Secret Greenhouse of Survival. And the plants he puts out in here are great. You can see color photographs. They're good plans. However, this is kind of expensive to put this in place, but if you have the money to do this, that is great. You can do it more cheaply, but you can get a lot of good ideas, from this book to build your cheaper secret greenhouse. This book right here is The Secret Garden of Survival. And what this talks about is planting a food forest. You can see here color photographs, and it talks about a plant, a garden, a food forest, where most people would pass by and see that growing and not know what they were looking at. So again, a good book, color photographs all the way through, diagrams and plans. And here's another one, Secret Livestock of Survival. These are all by the same guy, Rick Austin. And like I said, they all have, color illustrations. You can see different plans. And it's talking about how to secretly hide, your livestock. Color photographs. There's rabbits. You can grow those secretly. They're quite much easier to hide rabbits than chicken. You can see there's a nice, plump, juicy rabbit cooked up and ready to go. And it can be done, guys. You can see very good photographs, illustrations, how to do this, setting up a food forest, sprouting. These books, in my opinion, are absolutely great if you're worried about someone coming along and stealing what you have, and it's definitely a good possibility. And if you can use, some of the ideas in these books, you don't have to necessarily use all the ideas, but you can put in, use ideas from, the greenhouse book into something like this, convert it over into a greenhouse or maybe an outbuilding that you have, and do it much more cheaply than he has here. But this is a good plan he has if you can afford it. But you can do it, like I said, cheaply. I mean, you could probably, I've not checked the prices, but a building this size here, let's say it has the front on this already, to paint this and to take the roof off and put a fiberglass roof on, probably less than $1,000. You'd have a good sized greenhouse. You could build shelves in here for probably another $1,000. You might get it, you might find lumber for free, tore down an old building or something like that. Someone might give it to you. Build your shelving to put your plants on. You could build your own raised beds inside of your secret greenhouse and plant directly in those raised beds. Like I said, if you have, water in that, that's great, but that might go down in a grid down situation where likely it would. So if you had a well inside your greenhouse, you could do that. That'd be the best case scenario. But you can make plans, you can find solutions if you actually want to find solutions. But unfortunately, a lot of people do make excuses. I can't do this because someone might come along and take it. I can't raise this garden because it's, what they're actually saying is, I can't raise a garden because it's difficult. It's going to be work. I've got to plan. I've got to get my hands dirty. I've got to sweat. I've got to deal with bugs and heat and the sun. I've got to go out and tend. I've got to harvest. I've got to do all this stuff. And it's just too much work. I don't want to do it. I know that I should, but I don't want to. So I'm going to make excuses as to why I won't or why I can't. And that's what I see a lot with these people who think they're going to take their bug out bag and go live off the land. Most of these people haven't even went camping. Had no idea what they're talking about or what they're doing. But they think they're going to take a bug out bag and head to the woods to live, to eat wild plants and things like that, and to hunt and to fish. they'll be in for, a very rude awakening. It's possible, but you're going to be very skilled and do that long term, pretty much forever. A never coming back bag, what it should be called. It's going to be impossible because you can get hurt, you can starve to death, all kinds of things happen when you're out in the forest, snake bit, animal attacks, you get shot by someone else trying to do the same thing and take your bug out bag. It's not a good plan. But people want to use that, I think they're prepared because they don't want to actually do anything else. They don't want to stockpile, a pantry. They don't want to learn how to raise a garden. They don't want to put in, a secret greenhouse, for example, because it's hard, it's difficult. And it's more easy to make excuses and to do nothing. But guys, these books are recommended. You can see I have all three myself. Very good books, in my opinion, and definitely recommended.